You had a very interesting journey towards sound, and maybe you can tell us in general how you got interested in sound, how your development was from the beginning, the different equipment, why and what you chose, and what you have today.
Well, with music, I like music. Let us put it this way. From the very childhood, I was very interested in this. Yes, and I just like listening to music because it relaxes me and brings, well, pleasant sensations. And, well, something like that, yes. How did I get into music? I started buying different speakers.
Oh, even different ones?
Yes, I have different ones. In my childhood, I had, well, Radio Technica. There were cassette recorders. I had a lot of different cassettes. There were reel-to-reel tape recorders. I listened to them too, but I actually had a lot of different equipment. And then for a while I listened to music, but I did not concern myself with its quality. And then I started thinking that music is good, but I should listen to it in high quality. And it happened that I had funds available that I could devote to this cause. And I started looking at what was available and what wasn't. And I started, yes, buying equipment. I started with a home theater. Yes, that's right, that 5.1 system. I bought myself a Sony. I cannot say now what model it was, but it was a 5.1 system, yes, with a subwoofer back then. They were floor-standing speakers.
Ah, that's already a pretty advanced system.
Well, yes, but looking at it now, well, of course, the quality back then was very far from actual quality. But back then, when I bought that first system, it was wow. Well, because before that, I had been listening to, well, mostly Soviet equipment. And back then, it was actually very far from quality. And I would turn on these 5.1 speakers and listen. I liked it very much. Then I decided that I needed to buy a separate receiver and separate higher quality speakers. Well, because, well, so that they would play somehow. And so that there would be a high quality subwoofer, well, so that it would work normally, play music. Well, and then for some time I, lived with that system. And naturally, when some time had passed again, I decided that, well, I needed to start improving something. Well, you can't just keep going like that all the time. And I moved to the next level. I bought even more expensive speakers.
What speakers did you buy?
Well, the ones I have now. The ones I have now.
Oh, did you buy the ones you have now or different ones? No, which speakers did you buy after the receiver?
I bought Klipsch speakers.
Oh, Klipsch?
Reference, Premier reference.
Well, that's cool. Yeah.
Yes, but then well, no, actually before that, I first bought Monitor Audio Bronze.
Well, also a name brand.
Actually, they sounded very, well, decent. And then I thought, well, I need to replace the bronze speakers, and I bought Klipsch. And actually, well, they sounded, but well, not quite. Well, in short, just not quite. So I lived with these Klipsch speakers for a while. And then I decided, no, I still want to go back and try these Monitor audio speakers. I was already thinking I shouldn't buy the bronze ones. I'll try the silver ones. Well, yeah, so I bought these silver speakers. Yeah, for comparison. And what I did was buy them first without selling the previous ones.
Ah, you had a parallel experience that lasted quite a long time.
And then I listened to both side by side right away, comparing them in different ways. I tried different setups, and I'd say yes, definitely. I immediately felt how the sound changes with these, let's say, premium speakers. Well, it's probably hard to call them premium if we look at the real high-end ones that cost a lot.
Well, I think that
Thousands.
if we're talking about quality, then where there's high-end, design is also added. And if you're being very rational, I think you can buy a very good speaker within reasonable limits. But not for 1,000, yeah.
Well, in fact, yes, I compared these two companies, and I still came to the conclusion, yes, that these English speakers, well, let us say, in my room, in my space where I could listen to them, well, they sounded better.
How big is your room?
Well, about 20 square meters, maybe more, maybe 25.
Well, like 3 by 7 or 4?
6 by 4.
Oh, well, it's kind of box-shaped, yeah.
Well, yes.
Overall, I would say this is a good room for listening.
Well, another good thing is that I have a 3-meter ceiling height.
Yeah, overall, yeah.
It gives, well, a bit of spaciousness too.
But the room is untreated. You are living normally in a beautiful interior, not installing any of those sound-absorbing things?
Not yet, but I'm starting to think about it too.
So that means there are no crafts or toys, got it.
Because I understand that there is not much point in investing more in the equipment. Well, I could spend a lot of money, but I would get very little result. I need to start working on the room. Because I have listened to many different experts, and they all say that 70% of the sound depends specifically on the room. Just 30% relies on the equipment. You can set up expensive equipment in an unsuitable, untreated room, and it will not prove itself. It will not be able to show its potential. Therefore, one should start, well, in my case, one should start investing and thinking about how to improve the room.
Maybe you could tell me a bit about amplifiers. You bought different ones. We have already heard about 2 of them. The first one was a small Sony receiver for 5.1. Then there was a larger receiver from a different company.
Denon. I bought several of those Denons, well, and in fact, by buying the next and the next model, well, the quality of this sound improved a little bit, but not significantly, let us say, not significantly, yes. And then I have a friend who, well, is more advanced in this matter. Well, he was, and well, he is more advanced. And he and I started talking, and we started talking about Class D amplifiers, about how today science and technology have stepped so far forward that Class D is overtaking Class A, Class AB, and Class B. We started discussing this.
What knowledgeable friends. You're very lucky.
I have been lucky in life. I have actually been lucky in life, yes. And he spends a lot of time on forums, and he has also been interested in music since childhood. And he actually had a lot more amplifiers than I did. And I was lucky to have met him, and we started talking to him, discussing these topics. And I came to the conclusion that I should try Class D, that I should not. At first I had the idea of buying some kind of Class A amplifier and, well, playing around with it. And then, after we, well, reasoned and talked it over, I realized I should try Class D right away. Well, because it is efficient. It does the same thing and uses fewer resources. And I decided then that I should try a cheap Chinese amplifier to start with. Well, how it behaves and what it is and what it does. Well, I was amazed actually.
And what did you buy?
I bought the Fosse 3 amplifier.
So you bought the TPA 3255, and after quite a few amplifiers that you had, this is the most, well, this is the lower threshold, the normal lower threshold. And did it impress you as a music lover?
Yes, it impressed me. I was impressed by its capabilities. How can how should I put it, how it can create sound on floor standing speakers. Not just on small bookshelf speakers, but on large ones, well, on large floor standers that have an RMS of 250 watts, and it drives them properly. I was surprised, I was really surprised. And many details, many. It plays everything so clearly. It had many details. And I liked it very much, how it reproduced that sound.
And then, well, your friend somehow got in touch with me and bought this flagship IcePower 1200. And then you came to. Maybe you could tell us about this next step? Everything was really good there. There were details. It drove everything. And what happened next?
Next, we discussed with my friend again that there is this Gantas who deals with amplifiers. And he has a very powerful amplifier which it's very popular and there are a lot of good reviews. And I thought, aha, since that's the case, I should give it a try. And I was also told that Guntars could let me listen to it. Just to listen.
I don't take money for this.
Since Guntars can let me listen, how can I refuse such an offer? Well, that would just be, well, stupid, let's put it that way. So I went, of course I went. I went and for a couple of days, yes, received this IcePower 1200 Pro amplifier. He is with me now, yes. But after that, of course, the feeling was completely different. It felt like I had taken earplugs out of my ears. It was as if I had earplugs in before and then I took them out. And then entirely different details appeared. Entirely different details appeared. Well, probably about 30% more of them appeared. Or maybe even 40% more. Moments appeared where you could hear what the sound engineer had intended, what he had intended, when the instrument is no longer playing, but its resonance still continues to sound. It even reached such moments, and this impressed me greatly. I was delighted, one could say. That would be correct.
Well, if we say there is a lot of power, there are 500 watts per channel. Does this interfere with your listening?
It does not interfere at all. I hear how everything happens easily and without strain. There's no feeling that something is missing. These speakers, these ones that I have, monitor audio speakers, with an RMS of 250 watts, they started to breathe freely, as if they suddenly had plenty of air. Without strain, all instruments are played, well, very, let us say, naturally. When I listen to sound, how to say natural sound, well, from real instruments. You go to a concert and hear how the instruments play. Here they sound very, very similar. And so easily and effortlessly that it's very pleasant to listen to.
Well, one of the biggest challenges for me is to find some reasonable way to explain to many listeners how important this power is, this power reserve that provides this ease. There are a lot of comments. People say, I have 10 watts, it screams like crazy, more. It's easy to scream, right? No, it's easy to make playback sound shouty like that. But for it to play with such nuances and also this large reserve, it makes... Well, it is difficult to describe in a non-engineering way. I am not a specialist in all those things. Well, it is like a car with a big engine. We also drive within the limits of traffic, right? If it says 90, we drive at 100 there. I cannot do 90, I drive at 100. But at the moment when I have difficult traffic and need to overtake something, this dynamics allows me to drive easily. And if I have a low-power engine, I first of all spend a long time looking for a lot of, well, space there. Then I accelerate, yes, and then I overtake, and for me it is a whole process. And overall the physics and dynamics work the same way. And it is very important when this amplifier is made, it is very important how the first watt is made, that first demand. When we have a drummer, he has such a large peak. But the most important thing is the very beginning, how it started moving or lingered a bit. And that is the whole design of a good amplifier. Can he produce that first watt or not? And these IcePower developers for this 1200 unit, there were 7 years of development. First, they developed a different line, then they incorporated all their knowledge into this unit. There is no second unit with that architecture. There are several modules there that are not yet integrated, and I also, when I connect it, there are small tiny ones. That is why they made such a large kit and everything. Well, there it is. How it controls the speaker, right? The speaker obeys it like a very good rider.
I have the feeling that someone has grabbed this driver with a firm, tenacious grip, and at the slightest demand, they move it exactly the way it needs to be moved. I am saying what struck me was that the musician, the drummer, hits the cymbal, he makes such a strike on the cymbal. But there are two ways you can do it. You can strike it and let it go so that it continues to produce sound, or you can stop it. Well, himself, the musician himself can do it. And when you hear that he hits the cymbal and lets it ring out, and the sound engineer also put that idea in there that it should be there. And this amplifier, this IcePower amplifier, it continues to play all those seemingly unnecessary, redundant sounds. It seems like this should no longer be in the composition, simply, well, the instrument has sounded, everything should stop. No, you hear how it still continues there. It is amazing indeed.
Well, yes, the community non-scientifically calls it microdynamics. In general, it holds this loudspeaker firmly, yes, and forces it to vibrate just a little bit more there.
In very fine detail, if you can hear it, you can hear how a person breathes, how a musician breathes, even all those little moments. But these are also micro changes that, well, the amplifier makes in the speaker so that this sound can also be heard.
Well, it means that throughout the entire excursion, the fact was that the Fosi TPA 3255 surprised you even more with the power it can produce. But when you reached that limit, you were ready to pay the difference. Did you sell the Fosi or did you keep it?
Yes, sold it. Yes. Well, I gained experience. I know what it can do. I do not see much point in standing still. One needs to move forward and try something new, something different.
Was it easy to sell? You have used Chinese ones there.
Well, I found a person who is also an enthusiast and who needs many amplifiers. Yes, and every product has its buyer. It just depends on the price, what price you offer.
Maybe you could say once more which model of that Fosi you had.
Z3.
ZR3. Is it a monoblock or what? I will look it up later.
A monoblock, yes, but no, it is dual mode. You can use it as both stereo and mono. And I first bought one and used it as stereo, and even then it was able to perform. And then I thought that I should buy another one and connect them as two monoblocks. And in fact, their dynamics also, well, they became greater, they increased, it began to play dynamically in two monoblocks. But when I bought the IcePower from Gunter, well, the dynamics improved by several times, probably, yes, you could say that.
So, as a music lover, you consider this price difference to be reasonable, right?
I will say that this amplifier is worth every single euro cent I invested in it. I don't regret it one bit that I bought it. It's worth every penny, 100%.
Let's talk. Well, it turns out I'm pitching my own product. Let us talk. Well, it turns out that I am pushing my product. That was not my goal. I just wanted the user to experience it the way you described. Because I get a lot from Western Europe. No, not from Western, from my customers. I sell mostly in the developed world, yes? 42 countries have bought this amplifier, so the concept is right. And when they install it, they later write me thank you letters. That means they also saw a real improvement. Maybe not something extraordinary, but they had a serious, noticeable improvement. Well, regarding this unit is the top-tier development, the development of Class D, and I believe this is the top-tier development not only of Class D, but of amplifiers in general, where it approaches the limit. After that, we work with other components. Let us talk about digital to analog converters. I have defined the lowest level as being around 200 euros, but you have something a bit different. Perhaps you could talk about your digital to analog converter, which one and why?
I first bought a Weem digital converter. Well, it cost 400 euros. 400 euros. Well, there was both a converter and a streamer, a streaming player. Well, at first I listened to it. Yes, it was fine. But then somehow I did not like that sound. Well, I just did not like it. I just felt that something was off. And I decided to invest a bit more and bought one that was twice as expensive. Do I need to mention the model?
Yes, name it. We do not sell this model. There have already been 3 or 4 new generations since then.
I bought Eversolo's 8.
You bought a Chinese one too? First a Chinese one, then another Chinese one.
Yeah, a Chinese one. Well, I'll say the sound, of course. It changed just as much as when I switched from Fosi to IcePower. Just like that. It was that kind of step up.
So, we can conclude that those who say, I bought everything for as cheap as possible and reached the maximum level there, are still incorrect. There is a certain price range or a certain price where, well, to achieve such quality, one still needs high-quality components and so on. Right?
Yes, that's for sure, because I also listened to Fosi, that Z one too, well, and
ZD, I think? ZD, the one I gave you. I said that's the lowest tier that still gets you to 90% of the musical quality.
yes, but there too, but the details disappeared, and the sound, well, it is not as sharp, well, not as clear, let us put it that way. It is not, it is as if it is covered by something slightly.
So what conclusions can we draw? That if we are also allocating our funds, we cannot save too much on the source. It is important for the source to be, well, okay, not perfect, but very good, yes, if we want to get a quality source.
Yeah, that's for sure. And a lot really depends on that, actually. You can have a good amplifier, but a bad source. No. The sound will definitely improve. It will be better, yes, but One should not expect some incredible changes from this either. Yes, one needs to invest in these components from start to finish. Yes, and probably they should all be about the same level.
Maybe. How much did it cost?
700 euros.
700. So in the philosophy I talk about, if we reach about 90% quality, yes, then our preamplifier and digital to analog converter are around 200. But if we want to get to about 95, yes, that's triple the price, even a bit more, yes, triple the price. And you say it's worth it.
Yes, it's worth it, because you start to hear completely different details, a whole new level really. And when you hear some detail in one place, about the one I mentioned before, right? It is just that, after all, these details add up throughout this entire musical piece. It all consists of these details.
So for those among us who say that the very cheapest is enough, is there still a reasonable limit? There is no limit. Reasonable investments that actually give a return, yes, they give a return.
It probably all depends on how prepared the listener themselves is for this, because I have acquaintances for whom, well, when I turn on the music, and so while we're discussing, well, we're having a debate, I say, do you hear this part here? And he just doesn't hear it. He listens. When I tell him, I point out exactly where to listen, then after the third time, he's like, oh, yeah, yeah. But before that, it turns out he doesn't even hear it. And maybe it doesn't matter to him at all.
But we can come to a certain conclusion. In the media space, there is a very harsh confrontation. They literally insult each other there. Some are called rich idiots. Others are called deaf and non-hearing. So there is a middle ground. If everything is optimized correctly, it means we can reach 90%, 95% quality. So 90% quality is easy, and the last 5% almost doubles the cost, but it's noticeably better. Maybe you can just, if it is not a secret, tell how much you invested in the end, well, when you fully assembled the system that satisfies you as a gourmet.
Well, at the moment, it's going to be about 4,000. Not counting all those processes, intermediate processes that I also had to spend on to arrive at this result. Because it was not as if from the very beginning everything turned out perfectly for me.
So every component was important, the source was important, well, the DAC, the digital to analog converter.
Yes, it is very important. And something else I have realized from my own experience is that devices distort the original sound, because I set up several streamers, player conductors, which distort the sound at the end, because connecting the exact same composition to the digital to analog converter results in completely different quality. Yes, but it would seem there is digital sound, and you have provided digital sound and delivered digital sound. Well, and it seems there should not be anything so complicated that the sound somehow, so that the quality of this sound would deteriorate. But in reality, it deteriorates, and it deteriorates noticeably, tangibly. If I connect a streamer, the quality deteriorates.
And Toda, well, you listen to cloud services. What is your architecture today?
No, I connect the tablet or computer directly to the DAC.
So in this architecture, access to the cloud goes through a computer, through a powerful processor. Well, through powerful processing equipment.
Well, it can be connected. I connect the phone, it is possible, but directly to the DAC without any intermediaries.
But the one that connects, it is not a small controller, it is a powerful computer, right?
Yes, a powerful device, yes.
A powerful device.
A seamless, powerful device, yes.
That's something new I learned from you. I only use a computer because for me, it's the most convenient and fastest interface. And this is something new I have learned from you, since I use only a computer, because this interface is the most convenient and the fastest for me. For me, this interface is so convenient that any other one, I don't know, buttons or whatever, yeah, it's inconvenient. I didn't even know. Here's another important thing. You need to listen to your customers more often, yeah.
Yes, but it is all experience that I gained through, let us say, trial and error. I came to the conclusion that, well, seemingly obvious things that, well, a digital signal cannot deteriorate, so to speak, but it turns out it can.
Well, yes, probably only a streamer developer and a DAC developer can answer this question so competently. My knowledge, since I'm not a streamer developer, yeah, this requires such deep expertise. Specialists in a certain field. And I have two areas of deep knowledge. That's in terms of sound, it is quite good. And in terms of acoustics, in terms of ultra-high frequencies, there are satellite 2 gigahertz up to 14 gigahertz. That's my deep expertise. But as for digital to analog, if there is someone among our listeners who is a deeply knowledgeable specialist, perhaps they will comment competently. I do not even have any idea why, but I can imagine that perhaps the processing power is somehow slightly insufficient, and something happens there, and a computer today has no lack of power.
Well, naturally, I checked everything that could be checked, all the settings that were there. I checked everything 3 times because, well, I myself was amazed. Well, how? How can that be?
Well, listeners, you see, we have moved into my area of expertise. I think a collective mind is needed here to answer this question, right? Yes. So, if we are returning, it means that in principle, you have obtained, well, in your case it is not 90% quality, you have obtained at least 95, and who knows, maybe 98. In general, your system today plays at 95% quality. The last 5% cost about 3 times more than all the previous ones. Yes, also for those who want to go up there, it is a fair price. These last percentages, remember I told you or you watched about the Pareto principle, that with 20% of investments we can reach 80% or even 90%, but the last percent there costs crazy money, right? But, I think that 4,000 is a reasonable investment to get that kind of quality. This is also a person who weighs it like this. Will I get every cent invested there back later or not? But the journey was long.
I think this is not the end.
Well, yes, we also have a room and there are other toys too, yes.
Well, of course there are. There are also developments and ideas on how the sound can be improved, but we will continue to work on this in the future as well.
What key takeaway did I get for myself? And this is probably for my viewers as well. There is a certain lower price limit where you cannot get away with total cheapness, right? If there are truly high quality components, well, a power amplifier of the highest quality cannot be made for less than €1,000. Here I did everything at once. It started working without strain, without anything. But 7 years of IcePower development is a long time for an entire team. Can you imagine if an entire team develops such a unit for 7 years, what its cost is? It's available for sale to the public. Anyone can buy it.
Yes, but it's worth the money. I can say that with 100% certainty.
And the last thing, there were 2 options. There was an option with 12-volt control, but you chose signal control. I even made it with amplifier signal control specifically for you.
And for that, thank you very much. Yes, I've already seen the benefit of that.
Can you imagine? You can keep it not even on a shelf, you can keep it on the floor, there closer to the speakers. Take professional wires there and forget that you even have an amplifier.
Yes, it is already in place. Everything. Everything is in the right spot. Everything is connected. And yes, there is no need to actually think about it anymore. That is what I like so much, that there is no need to think about how to turn it on, how to turn it off, what needs to be done there or not. It just works in automatic mode by itself.
So, for myself, I can make such a decision. When I make my product, I must make a neat case with good heat dissipation, but not gild it. Make it ascetic, aluminum, yes, with good material, paint it with good powder paint. And basically that doesn't interfere with the sound.
And it must also be quiet, which is also, well, important.
Yes, it's quiet.
So that it doesn't create unnecessary noise and it does its job very well. It is not audible at all, actually.
So I chose the right design and the right solution. But I know this because I have sold quite a lot of them in the world. This design, despite all, what an ugly duckling it is. It's not an ugly duckling, it's like a professional tool. Yeah, it doesn't have anything unnecessary. And I even had such conversations, like even your colleague came, he says, could you put it there in a very beautiful box? I say, well, here is my competitor. He has a very beautiful box on the website. But it costs twice as much, yet it is a very beautiful box. There it is, you can take it. And what do you think? Which one did he choose?
Not a very expensive one.
He took, yes, his greed got the better of him. He wants a beautiful box, but he is not ready to pay for it.
Actually, I am more focused on the result, not on how things look. And what do I expect? What kind of performance do I expect from this device? And it suits me very well, yes, when I hear that when it starts working. It pleases my ears and my eyes, my soul.
Well, yes, and for me there is such a specialty in product management and marketing as well. When you come up with a new product, you must know the market very well, know your client, who you are making it for, and so on. And when you're developing a product, it's actually an extremely difficult task, more difficult than engineering.
Well, that's true too. It's an art.
A tremendous art. Many similar cases exist worldwide. They kept trying until one finally succeeded. Why did it work? 10 others were in the lineup, but this one worked. Even if you ask such an advanced marketer, why did this one succeed? When you were developing it, did you think this one would take off? He said, well, no. Yes, so I also cannot say that I know my market very well, but sometimes I hit the mark.
But there's still work to do.
It is difficult. There is no one to learn from. You talk to them, there are so many smart Alex. But when you ask them to actually make it work, right away. And this is where you answer. We are ready to present various options there. But as for the final result, that is your business. Up to the point when it comes to responsibility. Up to the point when it comes to responsibility. Well, thank you. That was a very informative conversation. Thank you so much for sharing your experience. Because sometimes it is difficult for me to tell people that there is also a reasonable lower price limit. A reasonable minimum price exists.
There is, Jose, absolutely.